Hi, everyone. Maria Matarelli here from Formula Inc. And I'm with Leland Holgate with the Willful Warrior. And we're really excited to tell you about a program we're putting together here, a strategic reset for the new year. And, Leland, it's been absolutely incredible meeting you and having you lead a workshop here in Las Vegas at the Kaya Club. And we just want to share with people a little bit more about your background. Can you tell us a little bit more about how did you get into everything that you're doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was an absolute pleasure hanging out with you all. Very aligned souls. So for myself, I'm a combat veteran and suffered a life-altering neck injury that left me paralyzed, which led me to breath work. And then breath work and yoga were kind of my entry vector into where I am now as a neuroscientist, understanding the mechanisms behind how I healed myself and passing along that information to others. So yeah, super excited to be involved with this and what we're looking to co-create. And I know for a fact you're excited as well. So what's one of the things like you're most excited about them taking away from this that we're creating?
Well, so I'm excited to hear more about what you teach because you started talking about neuroscience and energy and how leaders can be higher performers, coming at it from a little bit of the physiological perspective. And most of the work I've done has been working with leaders and working with organizations around process methodologies, right? So, what's the tactical things that we can do? What's the systems and frameworks in the way that we work? And what you've studied and mastered is how we can come at it from a completely different perspective than what people often talk about in business. So I'm excited to hear about how these two worlds can combine and really give people that competitive advantage from a more holistic approach.
Yeah, I love that. And I think one of the things that I was most excited about when I spoke with you is your approach to the business process is like I've never heard of somebody speak from sometimes an energetic or a different lens than just, the typical jargon that you hear in some of the business presentations.
Right. So, Leland, tell us more about what does it mean to you? How important is it for someone to have a strategic reset for the year? When we
Um,
look at our goals, when we look at what we're trying to achieve, and especially when we look at the way we've always done things, and do you want to get more of the same or do you want to excel and do you want to reach higher levels of performance? What's possible when
oh my
you look
goodness.
at, from all the things that you've studied and that how people can create that change?
Yeah. It was one of those things I never really, until just years ago, realized how well this fits in with all of the leaders of industry, with the C-level executives and high performers. It's an aspect to me that I noticed I was missing. I went at business like everybody does. You follow these processes and systems that have worked for other people, and you put those into place. But typically, you just get those instructions, right? You don't get the follow through like I recognized from you, like the actual leadership of how to practically implement these things into your life. And when you look at what neuroscience can bring into this discussion, I usually ask any high performer just a couple of questions. What could you do with increased energy? What could you do with increased clarity? And what could you do with increased focus and a lot less stress and overwhelm inside of the body? And that's quite literally what I help people achieve. And when it comes to like what's possible, oh my God, the sky's not even the limit. It's just the beginning. On the other side of things, we have people turning off diseases like MS, like a light switch, or healing from incurable diseases. On the other side of things, we have C-level executives and high performers, also the elite athletes that are noticing an increase in their game, endurance in what they're doing, less overwhelm, less burnout, more clarity, more focus, more energy, so that they can bring their authentic self into whatever they're doing in business.
That's incredible because everything you just mentioned about having more focus, more energy, being able to have those feelings and that state of being where we can perform better. I'm pretty sure the majority of people working today are not feeling that calm, peace, and sense of serenity. I feel like there's so many competing priorities. There's shifts in the industry. There's uncertainty. We've got emerging technology that people are trying to stay up with like none of those words resonate with me of what I'm seeing in the industry right now. I don't see people operating from that place. And I'm leading corporate training classes every single week where I've got people coming from all over the world, Europe, Asia, throughout the US. And it's kind of like this compression of we must deliver faster, we must deliver more. When you look at agile project management, it's a proven methodology that helps you do that. But people are doing this oftentimes at an unsustainable pace, which can lead to burnout. And I'm seeing and hearing the struggles of people all throughout the world in their different organizations and different industries pretty much every week. And what you're talking about, I got so excited when I heard the things you were referencing. It's like, wow, this feels like this is an answer to what a lot of leaders and a lot of teams need.
Yeah. Yeah. I do the same thing. When we were talking, I just noticed all of the integration between what we do and how we could, again, help each other together with our pieces that we bring to it. Because to your point, most people in the market, of course, it's all about speed, competition. How fast can I get these things out? But it's so amazing when you have somebody that can lead you through like systems to optimize and to practically implement some of these things for yourself like you do with Agile, which is absolutely amazing. But then also allowing the optimization of the self, right? The regulation of the nervous system, which is, as you mentioned, a piece so many business owners and entrepreneurs and C-level executives miss. And I say it to them again all the time. It's like, what if you could do less and achieve more? And what if you could do less and be optimized about what you're doing and achieve it faster?
I can't think of anyone who wouldn't want that, Leland. Like that's
Right.
exactly where if we talk about higher performance, like how do you get there? Well, there's a state of being, there's the actions you take, and there's many different facets to that that I feel like people aren't even considering. And I'd love to hear more about, I know you talk about this concept of reclaiming the rhythm and looking at dysregulation, incoherence, and different methods for helping people get back on track. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that's about?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a concept that is critical, like foundational inside of neuroscience. And it's something that fits in to absolutely everything. Because of course, your nervous system is your CEO. You have a CEO running the show just like I do, and it's our nervous system. So if the nervous system is dysregulated and all discombobulated, how is anything that I'm about to achieve actually going to take root or help anybody else out, let alone help me out with what I'm trying to offer my people as well? So with reclaiming the rhythm, the foundational neuroscience principle that we'll be talking about is signal versus noise. And it's very simple. How much noise is in your purview right now, which is programmed into your nervous system that's got, oh, I've got to answer those emails. Oh my God, I've got that offer I've got to create. Oh, dear Lord, I've got those performance reviews I have to do. And now you've got all of this noise blocking out your signal. And that original signal is what we work to reclaim through a lot of the methods that I teach all these amazing high performers and elite athletes, recognizing that you cannot work from a place of coherence or even calm unless the system itself is regulated. If you've got all of this noise coming in at you and you're focusing on your deadlines versus focusing on coherence, and then of course everything coming from you, then of course that signal is just going to be mismanaged. So that's what reclaiming your rhythm is all about. Just take it literally 2 to 5 minutes and you can completely get back in access with your original signal, the one you entered this planet with, and the one all of you and your people, we experience it all the time, right? We find ourselves in just that flow state where everything is just easy and effortless. That's because you're in tune with your original signal versus all the friggin' noise that comes at us constantly.
It makes a lot of sense. And I've heard a quote before, a problem cannot be solved from the same state of being in which it was created, right?
Exactly.
And so if you're trying to create wealth, abundance, have success, if you're not in a good frame of mind or a good state where your energy's off, your emotions are running rampant, and you can't make clear decisions, you're not going to be able to be innovative and have strategic thinking as well as if you had a clear mind, right?
Exactly. Yeah, couldn't have said it better.
So it's interesting when you think about this, because I feel like, just like, we all hear about a good morning routine. And if you wake up and if you have a great morning routine, you can start your day off right. You're programming yourself for optimal performance throughout the day, right? Versus waking up, scrolling through social media for an hour, looking at all the bad things on the news. Now you've got this world view and like almost a subconscious, it's almost like a subconscious framing of how you look at the world, right? And if you cannot be regulated in that, if you're not in that clear mind, clear state of being, like you mentioned, all the noise around us, I can't think of a scenario with people I've been working with where they don't feel like there's things coming at them from every direction. It
Yeah.
seems like with the companies and their state and place in the market, like they want higher performance, they want more market share, they want more sales, they want to launch products more effectively and efficiently. And when you look at this, they're doing everything they can, oftentimes working harder, working faster, putting in more effort. But there's only so much life force energy that we can put toward that when we're running ourselves ragged, trying to do more and trying to push and force, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well said. I mean, one of the things that I really plug people into is we look at our phones, we look at all these devices, and we know they have batteries, right? We're the same thing. We're an energy system. You cannot leave your phone unplugged, wake up in the morning and expect it to be there for you 100%. It's the same way with us. And then same thing like you were talking about. If you've got all of this focus that's focused on the negative aspects or the things are burning down around me, I've got to find a solution type thing, then as we've kind of discussed, focus is the problem. But the good news is your focus is also the solution. All we have to do is fix what you're focusing on, fix that filter inside of your brainstem that pulls out what's supposed to be important for you. And again, bring yourself down to that original signal, cut out all the noise, and next thing you know, aligned action shows itself. Like, where do I go next? Oh, there it is. That's exactly what I should be working on now.
See, this is so interesting to me because what you're talking about is mindset, state of being, clarity, and focus. And my perspective through my lens, I'm looking at this for similar reasons, but from a different perspective. So if we look at an organization, you look at what are the goals you're trying to achieve, what's a project you want successfully completed, right? And you're talking about the noise as far as like, what are we sensing around us, like in our physical space, in our state of being as we approach the day, as we approach our goals, as we approach what we want to achieve. I know many of us find ourselves victims to overload, and we have multiple initiatives in progress. And the challenge there is that you might make an inch of progress in multiple areas, but not a mile progress in any one area, right? And so the multitasking, as we know, oftentimes it's not effective, and you've got competing priorities, and there's a cost of context switching every time you move from one task to a different task. And so without that focus, there's the state of being focused, but there's also the process methodology angle to it. So I look at it through that lens where a lot of organizations, they have so many initiatives happening at once. It's the same thing. Multiple initiatives with an inch of progress, but not a mile progress in any one area. So as you look at that, one of the biggest things that we talk about in product development and launching products to market and completing projects on time is we're talking about what's the prioritization of the initiatives. And oftentimes with Agile, you have a product owner. There's one person that's a single point of contact for setting those priorities and also being a liaison between the team and stakeholders. So how do we satisfy all stakeholder requirements? How do we prioritize the initiatives and then make sure that the team is delivering value frequently? What's a minimum viable product we can release to market? And how can we add to it, inspect and adapt, iterate, improve the product itself, and improve how we work as a team? Though one of the biggest challenges I see is that organizations have these never-ending backlogs where they think they need all of the features. And you don't if you know what the right priorities are. So if you look at an overloaded work plate, no wonder people are overwhelmed, right? No wonder things aren't getting done efficiently because you also have a lot of times people working on multiple projects at the same time. So now we have scattered focus in a variety of different ways. And if we can visualize the work, take a step back, truly prioritize the highest value, which isn't all the features, it's not all the things, it's just the highest value features, which, how do we know that? You have to talk to stakeholders and customers, right? So by having this shorter work cycle, we can deliver value, get feedback, and with that feedback loop, we can improve. And so when I look, that's the lens I'm looking at this through. And then you come at it from the other angle where you say, well, what about optimizing the person, the human, the individual? And now if we're thinking more clearly, if we have that clarity without all the distractions and noise around us as an individual, as a leader, what can be achieved then? So there's the focus from the almost like the distraction perspective, and then the focus from the intentional planning perspective. And I think when these two worlds meet, there's something very powerful there.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And I think that's why both of us just kind of intuitively like, oh my God, we need to like do something together. Because to your point, on my side of things, as you mentioned, I can help you optimize your focus, your clarity, your physiological state, right? Really get your nervous system, your CEO in an optimized peak performance state. And when you're in that state, maybe you don't know what to do next. I know I have coaches and C-level executives and high performers as well, which, okay, great. I've got a regulated system. Now what do I do? Here's the project I'm working on. This is our deadline. This is what we're looking to create. This is what we're looking as a return on this, and all these different numbers. So of course, when we were talking, my brain like started connecting all of the dots, like, oh my God, what would happen if I could get one of my clients into a super optimized position and then pass them off to you or have you with me and then help them really map out intelligently the next steps. And that's why I think I was so impressed with Agile and how you teach Agile systems. And I think that might be a really great way for them to understand, especially the folks on my side, like, you guys need what Maria does. I promise you, if you're a high achiever at any point, C-level executive, entrepreneur, you work on a team, especially inside of a corporate setting, I would love for you to describe Agile and maybe even some of the case studies that you've seen and some of the absolute successes that we were talking about that I'm excited about them experiencing.
Oh, I appreciate that, Leland. Thank you. And yeah, it's interesting when you look at it, right? Because once you get that clarity, it's like, well, now what? And have you seen the meme where it's like, me as a kid, you can't tell me what to do. And then me as an adult, will someone please tell me what to do in the exact steps one by one, right? And so I love that meme because we can all think back to being younger and wanting to have independence and be an adult. And then there's another one. I love speaking in memes from time to time because they're so relatable. And there's one where it's like, yeah, you thought as an adult, you thought as a kid that adults had everything figured out. And then you wake up as an adult one day and you're like, oh, so everyone's just been out here winging it the whole time, right? Like you just thought that your parents knew what was going on. You thought, oh yeah, adults have their act together. And then like, as you get older, you're like, nope, no, they don't. They are throwing it against the wall to see what sticks. And so I appreciate that so much because the magic and the power behind Agile, it's a systematic framework. There's methodologies where if you have a proven system, you can put any work in the framework, right? I train a lot of people up on the Scrum framework, which is the most commonly used Agile approach. It's a rugby term, and the tagline is how to do twice the work in half the time. And whenever people ask me, oh, what is it you do? Like if I start to speak the little tech speak, I work with IT teams. I help train them up on iterative development methodologies. Like you just see the face like glaze over. Like they don't want to listen to anything else. They're like, oh, right? Like they kind of lose it. But if I say, oh, I help people do twice the work in half the time, they like, well, I need
just
that.
Captured everybody.
Right. It's like it's so simple, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at Agile, like, so speaking of case studies and things like that, I want to share with you a company I worked with. This is several years ago. We were doing a website migration. And this company, it's interesting because it was a nonprofit organization. And we had an annual conference, and I was their VP of operations for 2 years. And there was a glitch that we had in our website. When we were getting ready to promote this big annual event, And the website provider was a company that usually provided pretty good support, but there was a glitch that happened and we weren't sure where, when, or why. But what we noticed was that people were signing up for the event, they were registering, they were getting a receipt, but there was this small glitch where it didn't actually pull the money off their credit card, right? And so we're talking like hundreds of people attending this event, and it's like this huge annual event. And so what do you think happened when we reached out to people? We discovered the issue and we're like, oh, hey, I know that you signed up, you got a receipt and everything, but we need you to pay again. What do you think happened?
I can imagine some of them fought that maybe, or thought it was wrong.
They were skeptical. They're like, wait, what? What happened? Well, I got to go check with my bank. No, I got the
Yeah,
receipt. And so they go back and check. But a lot of times, oftentimes they didn't come back and re-register because something felt shady,
I
something was
figured that
off.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So that year, the conference lost money. And that's a problem. Like you're not trying to put all this effort into an event to lose money. And it's all because the registration system wasn't working. So fast forward a little bit, and we were getting ready to promote our next annual conference. And we got a message from the website provider that they were no longer going to be providing website support. They were going in a different direction as an organization. They had some changes, and we were just going to be on our own. Now, given what had happened the year before, we didn't feel like we had the time or risk capability to just like absorb, oh, what if I'm sure it'll just go right, with no web support. And so we said, okay, well, let's find a new website provider. So we launched a website migration project. And I asked the board of directors, I said, guys, can we use Agile on this project? I really feel like this would be a great way for us to get up and running quickly, because I did a whole vendor analysis. We had, I think, 10 some vendors that we had worked with, and we found a pretty solid company. It's Proteon, based out of Ohio. And they were phenomenal. I met the guy at one of the conferences, one of the regional leadership conferences. They'd already worked with over 50 other organizations that were identical to ours. And I was talking to the head, Mike. I was like, hey, Mike, I was like, I got a question for you. I know that you have worked with a lot of organizations just like ours. Could you tell me what's the average time it takes to do a website migration? And he said, well, we've worked with over 50 organizations like yours, and it takes on average 3 to 6 months. Now, here's the thing. Our conference was happening in 4 months. We just found out we had no web support. You need to get registrations well before the month of, right? And so that's how, you need to be promoting in advance. I was like, Mike, we don't have that time. I was like, have you guys heard of Agile? He's like, yeah. I was like, well, can we use that? He's like, well, yeah. I was like, well, why don't you do this with all your clients? And he's like, well, they don't want that. They don't want that approach. They're so used to a traditional project management methodology that they feel more comfortable planning out the whole project up front. So traditional project management, you get all the requirements up front, you go into your design phase, then development, then testing, then implementation. Well, that could take 3 to 6 months as they get all the requirements together, right? And they don't launch to market until they have the entire website done. So that's traditional project management approach. Using Agile, I said, well, Mike, we don't have that much time. Can we do a minimum viable product? Using Agile, you don't need the whole backend database and content management system migrated over to have a working registration system, right? Like those are two different things. So I said, well, what's a minimum viable product look like? We were doing 2-week sprints. We were able to go live within 2 weeks with a new website that had a minimum viable functionality, which was the highest prioritized features, which were member-facing features. And we were able to open up registration with a solid system that we knew worked, that others had already vetted. They had a great reputation in the industry. And then we didn't even migrate the emails over to the new servers yet. Like, we didn't need to. We just needed the highest value functionality. And so it was amazing because, and actually the Project Management Institute wrote about this in one of their publications because it was an amazing case study. We got to market more than 80% faster than these other organizations around us. And the reason we were able to do this was a couple of key factors. One, it was using a proven framework that helps you get that minimum viable product out and then build upon that in future iterations. And so then we were able to migrate over the rest in the backend database and the content management system. But we didn't need those backend systems for our front end presence for the network, right, in our community. And so
Yeah.
one of the things that I think was really, really key is it's what I like to call a relentless pursuit of roadblock removal. And what we did by working in short iterations and looking at delivering something in just a couple weeks, by breaking the work down, it made it more manageable. There's less hidden complexity. We were focused on delivering a minimum viable product with quality, and we were able to get feedback. And with that feedback loop, we made sure we were on the right track. And by having a shorter time box that you work in and making the work more visible, and this was, by the way, coordinating across 3 different time zones. And
Yeah.
this is a while ago before everyone was on Zoom all the time. And that was more perceived of a challenge. And what we were able to do is we were able to cut through the noise, cut through the delays, cut through the roadblocks. One of our biggest roadblocks was the previous VP of operations who had signed up for the hosting. That's whose contact information was on all the systems. And this guy, he had not worked with the organization for years. And we couldn't get a hold of him. We didn't know where he was. He'd moved on. I think, moved on to working with a different company. Like, we couldn't find him. I tried looking him up on social media, couldn't find him. So we couldn't actually migrate the servers over because we didn't have the authorization because that person had left the company, right?
Mm.
And so this was a roadblock. And I was like, man, we're trying to launch. We got this deadline. And of course, I wanted it to be a successful Agile project. So what I do, I use an old school technique of picking up the phone, started calling people. I called the VP of finance and we were brainstorming. He's like, wait a minute, I pay the bill. I'm definitely processing the bill for the hosting. So I can contact them, let them know that our main contact has changed. And because I can prove that we've sent the funds, I've got the receipts, they should authorize us to do that. Great. We got over that. Like, we needed to get like the membership contact information over to the new site. So I'm calling up the VP of membership. I'm like, hey, we need access to the system. Like, what is it? I don't know exactly what we need. That's your arena. What information? So he's like sending me screenshots and texts, and I'm sending it over to the dev team, right? And it's like, what's the simplest thing that could possibly work? How
Yeah.
can you focus on the relentless pursuit of roadblock removal, and you're focused on the things that are the roadblocks? You can move forward and streamline what you're doing. And so
Yeah.
this all, of course, Leland, comes with having clarity, knowing where to focus, knowing the questions to ask. So that's
Right.
just one example. And over the years, I've focused heavily on expanding Agile outside of IT. I co-founded the Agile Marketing Academy and the Personal Agility Institute, and we've led these training classes all around the world for Fortune 100 companies, the biggest companies in the world. Over $60 billion in revenue are bringing my team and I in to help them see how they can apply these proven frameworks and systems to get to market faster, have more clarity in prioritization, streamlining their processes, and getting better results.
I love that. And you said a couple of things that, I mean, anyone can relate to. Sometimes the simplest, especially in communication, form of communication is the best. We rely sometimes too much on these digital forms. I'm going to wait for the email reply. Like, why not just call them? So I love that you did that. And then on the other side of things, this is where, again, my brain just started connecting all of these dots and the spider web started, intertangling between what we do, because it makes so much sense. How many times have we not pushed forward on either the corporate side with something because we haven't figured out all the boxes or haven't checked all the boxes? So maybe some very low on the list priority is literally holding up an offer or, the project start point or something like that. And I mean, I know on my side of things, I have several coaches that, they get, it's a very common thing for all of us. I'm sure you experienced it at the beginning of your career too. It's, paralysis by analysis. I got to have all the box checked. I got to have everything perfect before I put something out, instead of, like you said, what's the minimum viable product that's going to help somebody shift and change, actually going to create value and help them with what they're doing. And I think it's brilliant because so many of my people are going to be able to use this as well, let alone the C-level executives and, the high performing entrepreneurs and big corporate folks that are working inside of that, all the way down to the coach that's trying to come up with an effective offer. Like, maybe you're focusing on too much of the noise, and putting a system like Agile into place will get you out there coaching, because people need to hear what you have to say. And maybe you've got this amazing product or this amazing teaching platform that you want to put out there that can really make a difference in someone's life. And you're pausing for the smallest priorities.
Yeah. Well, the coolest part is that this approach applies outside of software, outside of IT. It's just gotten a lot of attention in that space because It works really well for taking complex work and breaking it down into manageable pieces and then being able to execute and get results. But in my experiments, I've applied this in so many different ways and I've helped clients apply this in so many ways. And my latest book, Personal Agility, I co authored with Peter Stevens, a trainer based out of Switzerland. And it's incredible. It's full of case studies where people have been applying Agile as an individual and getting results in their life, getting results in their business, and absolutely incredible things. And when you look at what's possible, another quick story, there's a woman I got in the backseat of her Uber several years ago, and it was a 20-minute ride from Tampa to St. Pete, Florida. And we're talking, and she's asking what I do, and I'm giving some answers. She's like, "You seem very interesting. Like, can we connect on social media?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." So I go to follow her on Instagram, and I'm looking at her post, and I was like, I couldn't help myself. I was like, "May I give you some feedback?" She's like, "Yeah." I was like, well, she was telling me her dream was to have her own TV cooking show and be like a private chef. And I was like, well, your food here looks amazing, but I don't see any of the descriptions. And I'm really curious what this food is because it looks incredible and I'd love to make it. If you could share that. And I was like, and your personality is amazing, but I don't see that coming through on your page. Like, where's your personality? Like, why don't you do videos? And she's like, well, I really want to have a TV cooking show. I was like, well, then why not, shoot a cooking show and put it on YouTube and create a portfolio and then submit that to the networks. And she's like, well, I'm old. I don't know how to use YouTube. And I was like, okay, well, hey, come over to my place. I'll shoot your cooking show. I just want to eat the food for free. Right. So then I got a private chef, right? She's coming over. We're just doing this cooking show. Fast forward, I started teaching her how to apply Agile and how to apply personal agility. And she went from working 5 jobs and barely getting by, driving Uber, a bunch of other things, negative in her bank account, having her car almost repossessed, like literally not able to, no steady cash flow, not able to get ahead in life. And working together, we brought in over $20,000 in a month, over 6 figures in a year, landed a client. She became the private chef for a billionaire, getting 6 figures during COVID when events were shut down. And then we brought in over $500,000 total. And it was all through applying these agile systems and having the clarity and the focus and using a proven framework to get there. And
Yeah.
so when you look at it from the biggest organizations in the world, Fortune 100, to the small entrepreneur who's just trying to make it or launch a new idea, these concepts scale. They apply at the small level, they apply at the large level. And, what is it they say? Change is easy when you want to do it,
Yeah.
right? Like being successful is easy when you know the steps, right? If you have a proven framework, when success leaves a trail, when you follow a systematic approach for what you do and how you get results, it's absolutely amazing what's possible. And I've got case studies for days, and a lot of them are in the latest book. But, when you look at what's possible, it's like so much is possible. And then when you add in and layer in what you do, and we get down to like the physical state of being and the mental clarity and the focus, my goodness, that's supercharged from so many angles.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what both of us we both had that, like, 5-year-old in the sandbox light bulb moment where we just, oh my God, they fit together so well. And based on what you just described there, it makes so much sense because that's literally what my brain was doing when you told me about what you do. I was like, oh my God, imagine I take one of my budding facilitators or coaches that's looking to get out there and become a high visibility, high performance type coach. And I get them really coherent, really focused, really settled in with all the information that they got. And then I hand them over to you, and they take all of that clarity, all of that focus, and just immediately start knocking out the systems that are going to get them out there, sharing their IP as fast as possible, but also as efficient as possible, and super, super efficient, like, efficient and valuable as far as what they're going to put out there. So I was excited the moment that I started running through my head, and that last story that you just shared proves it. So if you guys didn't hear what she just said, imagine what you could do with all the clarity, all the focus, all the optimized brain power that you could ever want. And then also moving from struggling like the lady did herself to being able to implement simple systems that are going to get you out there doing what you want to do, like living that life that you desire versus the life that you've just kind of gotten used to.
Yeah, dynamite, absolute dynamite. So, Leland, I'm excited about this. I feel that, we're talking about how do we help people have a new year strategic reset. And, a lot of times people use the new year to step into a new a new timeline, right? Like how do you get into a state of higher performance and how do you go from your current status quo to where you really want to be? And to make that leap, sometimes we have an idea of what we want and where we want to be, but we don't know the steps in between. And Leland, could you tell me a little bit about what are you excited about as we're talking about this New Year strategic reset for high performers and what's possible? Because we're
Yeah.
looking at hosting this live workshop on January 3rd, where people can join from anywhere in the world. It's going to be virtual and helping them get that start on the new year with whatever it is they want to achieve. People look from year to year. This is going to be my year, right? Like we're always looking at how are we going to create that new level of achievement and get out of our status quo. You have to do something different, right? You can't do the same thing you've always done. So tell me a little bit more about what are you excited about for what's possible and what people are able to achieve by applying these proven methods and frameworks.
Oh my God. I think you said it best when you had described, sometimes we know what we want out of life. We know the direction we want to head. We just don't know how to get there. We don't know the steps to implement that for ourselves. And that's what's so beautiful about the two of us coming together and taking some of the most integral pieces out of what we teach to literally give the best start ever for your year that you might have ever had in a new year for yourself. Because that's what I saw whenever we started talking. I was like, oh my God, this could be like the best start to the year that anyone has ever had inside of not just their personal life, but also maybe their career or what they're looking to create for themselves. And I think you said it best too when you talked about morning rituals or where it's at, right? How you start the day is how your day is going to go. It works the same way with your whole year. It's like, how did you start this year? Did you start this year with intention, or did you just throw the spaghetti against the wall and hopefully something will stick by mid-January? And that's the direction that you go, type of thing. So for me, what I'm super excited about is for the folks that don't understand what it's like to really piece together the most integral, most high priority things as you walk people through to get something out there and to get started, right? One of my mentors, and I teach the same way, always said, messy is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. Get yourself out there, get yourself operating in something, practice, right? Everything is practice. You can't be successful, you can't be good until you practice the ways and means that other successful people have been doing it. And as you mentioned, it's already spelled out there. You just have to follow the proper systems. And you thankfully have all of these amazing operating systems, mindset shifts, and everything else that mixed with the physiological reset and managing the energy systems and optimizing the body, those two together are just a powerhouse. I mean, I can't even wait to hear some of the just a month or two down the road testimonials from the people that come to this.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, same. Yeah. So, Leland, thank you for taking the time to share a little bit more about what you do. And I really enjoyed this conversation and how complementary the things that we do are. Is there one tip you would leave for people now? If we've got a couple weeks or however much time is left by the time they're watching this before the new year, what would you say for someone who is interested in priming for that new
Yeah.
year?
Yeah. So what I would say is, well, two things. A, your heart knows the way, always does. It's your number one brain, and we'll open that up actually, why it is actually a brain. It's not a pump. It's the number one brain in your system. So not only does the heart know the way, when you feel that aligned pull, as I know many folks are going to when they see this and hear about this, take action. Take aligned action. That's the one piece of advice I would give someone. How many times have I missed out on something in business or in personal life? Oh my God, I can't even count the number of times. But what I can tell you for absolute surety, the one reason I missed out on all of those opportunities is because I did not take aligned action when immediately I felt the draw, like, oh my God, this can help me. So give yourself that moment to regulate your system and take aligned action. Join us on January 3rd. You will thank yourself later.
Awesome. Thank you, Leland. And I just want to say to everyone that's listening, we really look forward to the opportunity to work with you. If you can make it on January 3rd, we'd love to have you with us and set you up for absolute success in 2026 and beyond.
Amen. Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure and joy, as always, to talk with you.
Thanks, Leland.